My wife faked her death for $2 million in insurance. 5 years later, I spotted her in the background of a viral cooking video. I buried my wife 5 years ago. I held her funeral. I cried over her empty casket. But last night, while doom scrolling on TikTok at 3 a.m., I dropped my phone in horror. Because there, in the background of a viral cooking video with 10 million views, was my dead wife. She wasn't in a grave. She was in Italy. She was alive. She was smiling, and she was wearing the charm bracelet I gave her for our anniversary. I paused the video, I zoomed in, and I realized the woman I had been mourning for half a decade wasn't gone. She was just enjoying the $2 million of life insurance money she stole from me. I'm going to tell you how I tracked down a dead woman across the ocean, how I uncovered a betrayal so evil it makes horror movies look like Disney cartoons, and exactly what I did when I finally stood face to face with the wife I buried. You do not want to miss the ending of this story. Hit that subscribe button right now. I sat up in bed. I felt like I was hallucinating. Maybe it was grief. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. I took a screenshot. I ran it through an AI enhancement tool on my laptop. I sharpened the image. I looked at the woman's wrist. She was wearing a bracelet, a simple silver charm bracelet. I zoomed in until the pixels started to blur. I could make out two charms, a tiny Eiffel Tower and a small silver cat. I felt like I was going to vomit. I bought her that bracelet for our 3rd anniversary. The Eiffel Tower was for our honeymoon in Paris. The cat was for our rescue kitten, Luna. It was her. Evelyn wasn't dead. She was on vacation. I need you to imagine this moment. You've spent 5 years mourning your spouse. You've cried yourself to sleep 1,000 times. And then you realize it was all a lie. What is the first thing you would do? Scream? Call the police? Or book a flight? Let me know in the comments. I didn't call the police. Not yet. Police take too long. Police ask too many questions, and if I was wrong, I would look like a crazy person. Instead, I opened the safe in my closet. Inside was the file from the insurance company. Beneficiary payout, $2 million. I hadn't touched a cent of that money. It felt like blood money. It had been sitting in a high-yield savings account for 5 years, gathering interest. It was now worth nearly $2.5 million. I looked at the insurance investigator's business card stapled to the folder. James Thorne, senior fraud investigator. I remembered him. He was a shark. He had grilled me for days after the accident, suspicious that I had killed her, only he backed off when the police cleared me. I picked up my phone and dialed the number on the card. It was 3:30 a.m. He answered on the second ring. His voice was gravelly and alert. "Thorne, Mr. Thorne," I said, "this is Donovan Miller. You investigated my wife's death 5 years ago." There was a pause. "I remember you, Mr. Miller. The kayak case. Is everything all right?" "No," I said, staring at the frozen image of my wife on the computer screen. "I need you to book a flight to Florence, Italy. I'm sending you a video." "Mr. Miller, if this is a breakdown..." "It's not a breakdown," I cut him off. "It's a resurrection. I just found Evelyn, and she's spending your company's money." Thorne met me at the airport in Florence 24 hours later. He looked exactly as I remembered him. Cheap suit, tired eyes, and an intensity that made you want to confess to crimes you hadn't committed. "Show me the location," he said, skipping the pleasantries. We rented a car and drove into the Tuscan hills. The vlogger had tagged the location, Villa del Sol, a luxury vineyard and hotel. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. Every mile we got closer, the rage in my chest grew hotter. 5 years. I remembered the funeral. I remembered her mother crying in my arms. I remembered the nights I sat in her closet, smelling her clothes because I missed her scent. She had watched that happen. She had planned it. She paddled that kayak out, ditched it, probably had a boat waiting, and disappeared. She let me mourn her just so she could be free. "Why?" I asked Thorne. "Why fake it? We were happy. We had money. Not millions, but we were comfortable." Thorne looked out the window. "Greed is a powerful drug, Mr. Miller. But usually it's not just greed. It's debt or a lover or boredom. Some people just want to hit the reset button on their life, and the insurance money is the golden parachute." We arrived at the vineyard in the late afternoon. It was breathtaking. Golden light hit the vines. It was paradise, and living in paradise cost money. We checked in under fake names. Thorne had brought surveillance gear. "We stay low," Thorne instructed. "We need positive ID. We need to know if she's alone, and we need to know where the money is." We sat in the hotel restaurant that night, hidden in a corner booth. At 8 p.m., she walked in. My heart stopped. She looked different. Her hair was blonde now, cut short in a chic bob. She was wearing a silk dress that cost more than my car. She looked younger, healthier, vibrant. She wasn't alone. A man was with her. He was older, distinguished, wearing a linen suit. He held her hand as they walked to their table. "Is that him?" Thorne whispered. "I've never seen him before," I hissed. She sat down 3 tables away from us. I could hear her laugh. It was the same laugh. The laugh I fell in love with in college. "Look at the jewelry," Thorne noted, writing in a notebook. "Diamond earrings, platinum watch. She's burning through the cash." I watched her for an hour. I watched her eat. I watched her touch the man's arm. I watched her live the life she stole from me. I wanted to flip the table. I wanted to strangle her. "Easy," Thorne said, putting a hand on my arm. He sensed my tension. "Not here. If you make a scene, she runs. If she runs, we lose the money." "So what do we do?" I asked. "We trap her," Thorne said. "I made a call to the local carabini. They are on standby. But we need a confession, or at least undeniable proof that she is Evelyn Miller." "I have an idea," I said. I pulled out my phone. "She thinks I'm a grieving widower back in Ohio. She thinks she got away with it. She feels safe." I stood up. "Mr. Miller, sit down," Thorne hissed. "No," I said. "I'm going to say hello." This was the most dangerous moment of my life, walking up to the woman who murdered her own identity. Could you do it? Could you look her in the eye and keep your cool? Be honest in the comments. I walked across the restaurant. The sound of silverware on plates seemed deafening. I stopped right at their table. Evelyn was looking at the menu. The man was looking at the wine list. "The Chianti is excellent," I said. Evelyn froze. She didn't look up immediately. Her shoulders stiffened. Her hand gripped the menu so tight, her knuckles turned white. She knew the voice. Slowly, she raised her head. She looked at me. Her eyes went wide. The color drained from her face, leaving her pale beneath her tan. "Hello, Evelyn," I said. The man looked up, confused. "Excuse me, who are you?" "I'm her husband," I said to the man, smiling coldly. "Well, her widower, actually. She died 5 years ago. It was very tragic." The restaurant went silent. "Donovan, please," Evelyn hissed. Her eyes darted around the room, looking for an exit. "Not here. Let's go outside." "No," I said. "I like it here. I like the audience." "I don't know what's going on," the man said, looking between us. "Vanessa, tell him to leave." "She can't," I said, "because if she admits she knows me, she admits to insurance fraud, faking her own death, and identity theft." Evelyn's face hardened. The shock was wearing off, replaced by the calculating look I had seen only once before, when we negotiated the price of our house. "You can't prove anything," she said, her voice dropping to a low, venomous whisper. "Evelyn is dead. My name is Vanessa Rossi. I have a passport. I have a birth certificate." "Fake," I said, "and expensive fakes, I'm sure, paid for with my grief money." "You got $2 million, Donovan," she snapped, forgetting her cover for a split second. "You got rich. Why couldn't you just be happy and move on? Why did you have to come here?" "I didn't want the money, Evelyn. I wanted my wife." "Well, your wife was miserable," she shouted. The mask slipped completely. "I was bored, Donovan. I hated Ohio. I hated your 9-to-5 job. I hated the suburbs. I wanted to live, and I knew the only way out was to die." She grabbed her purse. "I'm leaving. If you touch me, I'll scream." She turned to the other man. "Antonio, get the car." Antonio looked horrified. He backed away. You said your husband died of cancer." "He's lying," Evelyn screamed. "He's a stalker." She spun around to run toward the terrace exit, but she stopped. Standing in the doorway was James Thorne, and behind him were 2 officers of the Italian Carabinieri. "Going somewhere, Mrs. Miller?" Thorne asked, holding up his badge. Evelyn stumbled back. She looked at the kitchen exit. 2 more officers emerged. She was surrounded. She looked at me one last time. The anger vanished, replaced by desperate pleading. The same look she used to give me when she wanted expensive jewelry. "Donovan, tell them it's a mistake. We can share the money. We can stay here in Italy, just you and me, like we always talked about. Paris, remember Paris?" She held up her wrist, shaking the charm bracelet. "I kept it, Donovan. I kept it because I loved you." I looked at the bracelet, the Eiffel Tower, the cat. I walked up to her. I took her hand gently. "You didn't keep it because you loved me, Evelyn," I said softly. "You kept it because you like trophies." I unclasped the bracelet from her wrist. "And you're right, I did get $2 million. I leaned into her ear. "And I'm going to use every penny of it to hire the best lawyers to make sure you never see sunlight again." I stepped back. "Officer, she's all yours." Evelyn was arrested on the spot. The extradition process took 6 months. Thorne and the insurance company went after her with the ferocity of a starving pack of wolves. It turned out I wasn't her only victim. Antonio was a wealthy Italian widower she was in the process of conning. She had already drained $200,000 from his accounts.
The trial in the U.S. was a media circus. The Gone Girl of Ohio was the headline. She tried to plead insanity. She tried to claim I was abusive and she fled for her life. But the texts she had sent to a friend, who she also betrayed, proving she planned the fraud years in advance, sealed her fate. She was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison for wire fraud, insurance fraud, and identity theft. As for the money, since I had kept the $2 million in a separate account and never touched it, the insurance company was lenient with me. I returned the principal amount. However, because I helped them catch her and recover assets she had hidden in offshore accounts, they allowed me to keep the interest that had accrued over 5 years. About $500,000. I didn't keep it. I donated every cent of it to a search and rescue charity, the same volunteers who had spent weeks looking for her body in the freezing ocean while she was sipping margaritas in Mexico. I visited her in prison once, a month ago. She looked old. The prison jumpsuit didn't fit her. The blonde bob was grown out, showing gray roots. "Are you happy, Donovan?" She spat at me through the glass. "You ruined my life." I looked at her. I realized I didn't feel hate anymore. I didn't feel grief. I felt nothing. "No, Evelyn," I said, standing up. "You ruined your life the day you got in that kayak. I just finished the paperwork." I walked out of the prison. The sun was shining. The air was crisp. For the first time in 5 years, the ghost was gone. I drove to the airport. I had a flight to catch. Not to Italy. I was going to Paris, alone, to make new memories. And that is the story of how a cooking video solved a murder that never happened. Now I have a question for you. If you were in my shoes and your spouse offered to split the money and live in Italy with you after faking their death, would you have taken the deal, or would you have sent them to prison like I did? Let me know in the comments below. This is Donovan, signing off.